I had the opportunity to meet her the other day.
Put a name to a face there, yeah.
That's good.
See, he's looking at you. That's
Good, I'm excited.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, so this will be fun, right?
I thought
Pretty good.
it was Admiral Kohler this morning. Pat Fleet. I thought that his comments too.
Text you?
The stage for what we're going to talk about here.
This is going to be the trick.
The idea
In my phone.
speed.
No, you're not.
Yeah, I need sunglasses up there. I'm just gonna leave my stuff here.
Fighting
760-9194.
Okay.
critical component of what AI.
So I got a prop. I got a prop here.
Bringing that up with you?
Yay!
It's a talking point. It's safe. It's not anything.
And if I ignore it, because
That's fine. That's totally okay.
because I'm up there and I'm like, hey, run.
It's two, right?
Yeah, because I can see it now. It's going to be like
I'm
small.
at the end, so I think whoever's
I'm here.
second to last.
So let me get up there before.
Are you local?
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Good.
I know, right? Are you local, Mel?
Well, I grew up here, but I live in San Diego now. But I was Navy for a long time.
Yeah. Okay.
Kind of a weird thing, with traveling and traveling.
Absolutely.
Hi, Amy.
Hello.
Being here.
It's nice to see you, ma'am.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hi, Mel.
Aloha, ma'am.
If you want to,
It's good for marketing. That's right.
yeah, but I mean,
Stayed on. Will she be waiting for me? Will she be gone? I'm going back to Honolulu, to the island girl with flowers in her hair. If she's waiting, I will hold her.
Ladies and gentlemen, the panel will begin shortly. Please begin moving to your seats so that we can start promptly.
From Honolulu, in Hawaii, and when I went away, my heart stayed on. Will she be waiting for me? Will she be gone? I'm going back to Honolulu, to the island girl with flowers in her hair. If she's waiting, I will hold her close and never stray from Honolulu, in Hawaii, from Honolulu, in Hawaii.
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. Now, please welcome to the stage Colonel Mike Black, U.S. Air Force retired, Vice President Defense at AFCEA International.
Aloha. That was great. Now, General Clark said he liked walk-up music, and I know my boss likes walk-up music, so I'm just gonna have you go through this walk-up music in your mind, okay? I'm Usher Little John, and Ludacris. Yeah, okay. That's my walk-up music. Yeah, okay, that's worth a little applause. All right, so really, I want to thank you for joining us this afternoon at the industry panel that's entitled AI at the Edge, Operationalizing Artificial Intelligence in the Indo-Pacific Theater. Okay? Moderating this panel this afternoon is Lieutenant General retired Susan Lawrence, United States Army retired, our President and CEO, and my boss, or my boss's boss. I know that most of you are familiar with General Lawrence's remarkable career, during which she advanced from E1 to 09, and then retired as the Army CIO G6. And after retiring from the Army, she moved to industry, where she worked with Booz Allen first, and then with Accenture Federal Services. She joined AFCEA in 2022 as AFCEA International's first female president and CEO, and I am very honored to call her my boss. Ma'am, over to you.
Thank you, Michael. Okay. I think my mic's not on yet. Mike, hello. There it is. Okay, thank you very much. All right. Well, we've already done the aloha exercise, so we're good there. It is great to be back here at TechNet Indo-Pacific. It was touch and go, obviously, here for a while for us, whether this was going to be able to pull off. But I'm going to tell you what, our partnership with all of you is just absolutely amazing. We've exceeded our sponsorships and our exhibits, and we're closing in to last year's attendance and registrations and printed badges. So just thank you very much for, I know many of you are here on your own dime, and it means a lot to us, so I just want to thank you for that. It's great to be back here partnered with AFCEA Hawaii and their 40th anniversary year as we're going through this. This is our second year at the Convention Center. We love it. It's going well. But next year we will be moving back to the Hilton Hawaiian Village because our Convention Center is going to be undergoing renovations. So watch the news. We'll see you back at the Hilton. Get signed up early because you know over there the space is a little bit more limited. So see our team and mark your space for next year as we go back there. It is my pleasure to do the industry panel. I ask to do the industry panel every year because I just so much believe in our partnership with the government, military, industry, and academia. And it's industry that this partnership is why we are where we are today. It's why we were able to survive COVID. It's the leaders out there bringing in innovation and the technologies to our warfighters that makes a difference. And that's why we're able to get the kind of speakers that we've seen this morning, just phenomenal speakers. And every one of them touched on the importance of artificial intelligence and how are we going to use this on the battlefield as we go forward. So thank you to my distinguished panel for agreeing to be here with us and coming in. So thank you so much. We appreciate it. What I'm going to do is ask each of the panelists to give us some remarks about themselves and their background and what they bring to the fight here. I want, please, all of you, submit your questions. I'd like to go straight to you, to the audience, and answer your questions first. I have my prepared questions if we need to do that, but I hope that you all will engage. Anybody that knows me, unfortunately, I found out I can't leap tall buildings in a single bound and had an accident, so I'm not as mobile as I have been in the past because I've been known to go out to the audience and ask you questions. So you're safe this year as we go there. So you ask the questions, please, as we go forward. So first up is a great battle buddy of mine, served together, Lieutenant General John Morgan, United States Army retired. He's a senior partner at IBM, Consulting, Defense, and Intelligence Strategy Growth, and Sales Lead for IBM. Sir, over to you.
General Lawrence, am I on? Can you hear me?
Yep.
I hope everybody's doing great. And to AFCEA International, thank you for this wonderful opportunity to represent, from an industry perspective, the significance of some of the cutting edge technology that exists today. And I'm going to come at this a little bit differently as an industry member, but I've spent a few years on active duty in the United States Army. I'm a soldier for life. And over the course of that time frame, it was interesting to hear General Clark today talk about from Hollywood to Bollywood, from polar bears to penguins. Over the course of the time on active duty, touched every continent in the world with the exception of Antarctica, and they didn't have an issue with penguins, so there really wasn't a reason to have to go there. But have spent a lot of time both from a land component perspective and also as a joint warfighter. And then bringing that into industry, working through small business, from small business to a large integrator, and now with a technology and consulting organization. I think I bring a unique perspective of how the warfighter sees and understands technology and capability, and what that means to them as they move through, as the Army describes, transformation and contact, but really modernizing across the entire force. And when you think about the capabilities associated around data-driven operations, what we're going to talk about today, taking artificial intelligence, driving that to the edge for our warfighters, the future of quantum power computing and what that potentially means for the future warfight against near-peer competitors. It's an exciting time, and it's an exciting time to be part of industry to help bring that forward for warfighting capability across Army, Navy, Air Force, the Marine Corps, and all of our young men and women who wear the cloth of this nation. So I'll cut it short there. Again, a little bit about the background, just to give you a little bit of perspective, and look forward to the discussion, if you will, about how we leverage and operationalize artificial intelligence in this Indo-PACOM theater. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next is Jeff Baker, Chief Enterprise Architecture, Air Force and Combatant Commands, Business Group for SAIC. I spent a lot of time in some of those combatant commands, so I look forward to your perspective, sir.
General Lawrence, thank you very much. Really appreciate the opportunity to be here and present our perspective. Dr. Jeff Baker, I'm now the Director of the Digital and AI Portfolio at SAIC as of Friday, so that happened. I've been with SAIC for about 1.5 years now, and I came to SAIC after 29 years in the Army, so like you, sir, have a lot of time in the uniform, and that has shaped my perspective. But not only that, my sons have also followed me into the Army. One is now out, but another one is still serving. And so that shapes probably more than anything else how I approach these problems. In my time in the Army, I started off, I was a tank platoon leader. I was with 3rd Brigade, 2nd ID, and that was probably the closest I came to touching the Indo-PACOM theater when I was there. And we were actually at what was then Fort Lewis, now JBLM, and we were the roundout brigade for the 2nd ID, which was stationed in Korea. And we were focused on the tactical aspect of it, and we really didn't give much thought to how we were going to get to Korea. We had the roll-on, roll-off ships there at the port. We'd go there, we'd drive on, we'd have this nice, easy download on the other side, and then we would go do what we had to do. Really didn't think about the contested aspect of operations, which we probably would have faced. And so I've really been thinking a lot about that lately. But then I switched over to and became a multifunctional logistician. And so I did that for the vast majority of my time. Served at the tactical, operational, strategic level, time in the Pentagon, as well as at the Joint Staff. I was a Plans and Exercise Branch Chief at UCOM. And so I spent a lot of time fighting with the other combatant commands for resources, specifically AFRICOM and CENTCOM, but Indo-PACOM was also a part of that. And as some of you may know who have been in those discussions about who gets what resources for com plans, no plans, those discussions aren't always honor was done on the most friendly level. So, everybody was trying to convince everybody else that they had the most important problem to get the resources, because resources are truly limited. From there, fast forward a few years, I ended up at the Army War College. I was a student there, and I was offered an opportunity to continue on the path that I was on in the Army, or to go become a permanent professor. So I did what any smart person would do, and I called my wife and asked her, what should I do? And she said, go be a permanent professor. So I went to go get my PhD. I ended up teaching there. But permanent doesn't mean what you think it means in the Army. And so I got a call from a former boss who said, I need you at this organization down in Pittsburgh. And so I spent up the last couple of years in the Army as the director of the Army's Artificial Intelligence Integration Center. We were co-located with Carnegie Mellon, bringing AI solutions to the Army. At SEIC, I've spent my time focusing using data and AI to improve the speed and quality of decisions for the department. And if you're interested, we've got several interesting videos on the Tradewin Solutions Marketplace that you can search SEIC and some of the capabilities that we've done. And I'm excited to join this panel because I think it's really important for this discussion how we ensure a secure and free, prosperous Indo-Pacific region. On the 9-hour flight that Amy and I were talking about before we came up on stage, I was just reminded of the tyranny of distance that this theater faces. And as a logistics officer, one of the things that I learned early on is the fight against near-peer competitors really is, it's a distribution fight. And so no matter how bad my commanders wanted to, I couldn't break the laws of physics. It takes time, effort, and energy to get the fuel, the ammo, the supplies, et cetera, to the right place at the right time on the battlefield. So in order to do that, you have to get those moving well in advance, anticipate, so you can enable the commander to continue the fight. And so that challenge is really amplified here in the Indo-Pacific. And so I'm grateful this week that we're here to talk about it and learn how we can overcome some of those challenges. So is AI the answer to that? Well, I believe that it's certainly part of the solution, but it's not the solution. And there is no more important aspect than to the soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines who are going to be prosecuting that fight. But AI is a tool, and it's an important tool in the commander's toolkit. But just remember, it's only a tool, and it may not be the right tool for the problem at hand. So I don't think it's going to allow us to break the laws of physics, but it is going to help us improve that speed and quality decisions and to get the supplies and to get the equipment and to anticipate those needs so we can improve those decisions, we can increase our velocity, and we can enable that commander to conduct his mission. So with that, I think I'll stop there. Really appreciate the opportunity, and I'm excited for this panel and this discussion.
Thank you, Jeff. And I caught the UCOM experience there. Paul, we need to invite Jeff to TechNet Transatlantic, 3-4, mark your calendars, 3-4 December in Frankfurt, Germany. So love to hear from your experience there as well. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Amy, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Amy is the National Security Team Lead for Schneider Electric Federal. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, and thank you, AFCEA, for inviting us to be a part of this important panel and just be part of an industry discussion about something that is so important today and really is going to be a game changer in my mind for the history of technology as we move forward and how we use our technology, just like Jeff said, as a tool. My name is Amy Surplus. I'm with the Schneider Electric Federal Team, and as Susan mentioned, I run our national security team. Within that team, we have supported the intelligence community and combatant commands. For the past 19 years, I've been doing that. For the past 27, I have been in this industry supporting taking complex mission requirements and turning them into resilient and reliable solution sets that are easy to deploy. Within those 19 years, I lived and moved to Tampa when I moved over to the federal team. So I have grown up within the combatant commands to a large degree, supporting in a very unusual time for for the Tampa Bay area and CENTCOM particularly. As far as this solution set, or like as far as AI goes, I think what's really important and why this is so special to be part of an industry panel like this is a solution like AI is not going to be resolved. The issues are not going to come about without a partnership like the industry partners you see here today. It can't be done by one person. We believe it's a team effort, and it really takes all of us working together to provide the best outcome and truly meet the intent of the mission that we're seeing with the AI.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks. You know, when I was stationed at CENTCOM, I swore I'd never retire to Florida, but that's where my home is now. So I'll see you down there.
Yes,
so thank
absolutely.
you. Next is the founder and chairman of the Malama Kayu Foundation, Native Hawaiian organization, Captain Mel Yokoyama, United States Navy, retired. Thank you for being here, Mel.
Fly Navy. So, aloha, good afternoon, Mel Yokoyama. So I'm a local boy from the Big Island. So Ka'u, if you've ever been there, you need to go see the real Hawaii. But so that's me. I did 28 years in the Navy. What I want to, I guess you folks to take away from this panel is really one thing that resonates. I think especially what Admiral Kohler said this morning, Pacific Fleet. There's three things he talks about: is speed, persistence, and operating inside of the weapon engagement zone. So I brought a prop here to kind of explain that, but I'll save that for the questions later. But real quick about me, so Native Hawaiian organization, if you're not familiar with that, I support my hometown. I grew up in Ka'u. If you've been to the volcano, about 20 miles south. So I grew up there. And so I'm giving back. I learned a lot in the Navy. And one of the things we do in the Hawaiian culture is we give back. So that's what I'm doing. When it comes to Department of Defense, it's all about workforce development and developing the capabilities and capacity, not just from the workforce, but capabilities here in this theater. Because like the gentleman just said, it's 6,000 nautical miles from California to, say, Guam. That's a long distance over ocean. So the theory of distance is real, but I'll leave it with this before we get into the questions. One, if you have time, go to YouTube and look at Sea Strike 2043. So what I mean with that, so I was privileged to command, if you're familiar with NAVWAR, Indo-Pacific. And so the way we used to explain AI to the warfighters was through a video, a 6-minute video. Again, go on, it's called Sea Strike 2043. It was made in 2023, so 20 years ahead. But it's all about artificial intelligence, most importantly about being inside of the OODA loop, observe, orient, decide, and act, decision cycle of the enemy. So that's, I think, if you see that, you understand where AI is where we think AI is going in the military, at least from the Indo-Pacific Navy version. But there's one thing that resonates with me after commanding a squadron. I commanded, of course, Indo-Pacific, but I also spent a lot of time in Iraq and on the ground in Baghdad. And so one of the things that I took away, and I learned this back when I was a kid in my hometown, is the word trust. Trust is by far the foundation for everything we do, especially if you're operating inside of the weapon engagement zone. Because it's decision speed and trust, not in minutes, but in milliseconds. So trust is big, and I'm going to talk about how AI and trust and how that converges. So thank you.
And our cleanup batter here, did anybody watch the game last night? It took all night. It was 18 innings. I think it set a record. Amazing.
7 hours.
But we know David Herbst is the Director of Solutions for Mattermost and will be a lot more timely than 18 innings. Sir.
Yeah. Thank you. First, I just want to thank everyone on the panel, esteemed colleagues, AFCEA, and everyone here. Super excited to talk about AI, how we can employ it, use it at the tactical edge. Most of my career has been at the tactical edge, early as an airman and then supporting the warfighter in Afghanistan, Iraq, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, CENTCOM AOR, I'm very, very familiar with, as well as Europe and Africa. Also did a lot of support for SOF. When I was in SOC Europe, we split apart, stood up SOC Africa as AFRICOM was coming online. So there's a lot of lessons learned there, as well as the NATO SOF headquarters. We spun them out. And those types of things that we learned when we were building these new commands, as well as being able to support the warfighters in the war zones in Iraq and Afghanistan. Those are the types of lessons that I'm going to want to talk about, are the things at the tactical edge that were successful technically. You have to be resourceful. You have to understand where you can get things, where you can't get things, how to be able to know what your operational environment is, and then use every asset that you can, right? I'm super excited about this conversation today, and yeah, excited for all the questions that you guys have. So over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Voice of God, AKA Ben, do we have any questions yet?
Yes, ma'am, we do have a couple of questions from the audience.
Okay.
The first, what is the best way for small and emerging companies to engage in theater? How are Indo-Pacom and other commands in theater ensuring they are accessing the latest and best in breed, along with the more traditional AI industry leaders like OpenAI, Palantir, etc.?
Jump in, team.
Well, let me take that on a little bit. And again, going back to my own personal experiences within this theater, being stationed in Korea, theater operations officer for the peninsula, and then also another follow-on job with the U.S. 2nd Infantry Division. I used the term earlier, and it's transformation in contact. And now, granted, that's the Army slogan, but I would offer that all of the services are going through that modernization effort. And how do you bring on emerging capabilities and technology right to the hands of the soldier, and soldier, sailor, airman, and Marine. And I think you heard it today with General Clark. You know, we want to get our hands on capabilities and technology. We want to get our hands on it early. We want to exercise with it in simulations and exercises with our partners. And these forums like this, whether it's the service forums, Navy League, AUSA, AFA, these are great places by which small businesses, of which I participated in as a member in small business, to talk about our capabilities, our technology, network with the organizations that are leveraging this future emerging capability, and get to be known with other industry partners and players. Doing that and creating that environment to show and showcase your capabilities, be it as a small or medium-sized company, and then also having those discussions with other industry players that were mentioned, be it Palantir or whomever, is a great way to introduce your capability to the warfighters that are looking for the best in breed technology. And that's participate in these events because it's important.
Anything else?
What?
Yes, Mel?
Me?
Yeah, so I think Amy,
Good.
well, Amy said it, you know, she really thinks that, you know, it's going to take all of us together to solve some of these challenges. And so I agree. Events like this are really important for us to meet each other, have conversations, see where there's capabilities, as well as present it to the command. For some of the small businesses out there, I would really take advantage of these, because some of these opportunities that are coming out that the government is, and specifically in the Indo-Pacom region, there are some of the larger companies that are going after the Palantirs, the Open, they can't do it all themselves. And so if you have a capability that can solve a problem for the warfighter, partnering with those bigger companies and going after it is going to provide not only a better solution for the warfighter, it's going to provide opportunities for that innovation from the small companies, because a lot of it, that's where it's going to come from, to get into the ecosystem and solve some of these challenges.
Yeah, I agree. We're hearing more and more about the importance of small businesses with niche capabilities that they can bring to the solution. Mel, did you have something?
I was just going to dovetail on what Jeff said. So one of the things I learned operating in this region. So Admiral Swift, not so Swift, if you remember him, he was a former Pacific Fleet commander. He always said, for industry folks coming in, don't bring me a toy that will rock my world if you can't explain my operational problem to me. So for the small businesses, the startups, even the big companies, of course, understand your customer, but really understand a specific problem set in the operational environment, in this case, in the weapon engagement zone, that the commander, in this case, PAC Fleet, wants to solve. So in the PACOM theater, the problem set here is not the same as it is in Iraq. So understanding that problem set and what specific problems or capability gaps they need, that will get some attention.
Good point. Good point.
And I really do agree with what you're saying, Mel, because it is important, coming from a large manufacturer, our small businesses are kind of the key to all of this. You offer an agility that we, as a big company, sometimes don't have.
Yeah.
You offer a fresh perspective and a new way of looking at things, and especially when it is partners, small business partners, Hawaiian Native-owned partners that can bring just the insight to the Indo-Pacific that I don't necessarily see sitting in Atlanta, or that Schneider Electric Federal is not going to see sitting in Columbia, Maryland.
Right, right. Okay, we're going to get the next question, and David, it's your first one out.
All right.
Let's do it, Ben.
As modernization efforts continue to pick up pace, what are you and your companies doing to invest in AI education for younger generations? Why are such initiatives important, and how will they impact the future warfight?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. So at Mattermost, we have all of our documentation online, right? So how we do integrations, how we connect other technologies, even how you deploy the software. All the different types of protocols and things that you use to be able to deploy the system. As part of that, there is AI integrations documentation that we have there. From my perspective, how we need to go about doing this, because my children, they're digital natives. My son's already using LLMs to do some of his homework and things, right? And so they're already understanding and using that capability now. In terms of how do we train our young airmen, young specialists and seamen, there's a ton of documentation that's free. There's Kiora, there's a lot of different documentation. And the thing that is important though is people need to understand specialties of AI. So AI used to be just a big term. How do we, I want to understand AI. What is it? It's an algorithm and it solves a problem. So it's basic math. But the thing is there's probably 2,000 different types of AIs now that you can geo analysis, NLP, that you can dig down and actually find entities, and then you can associate them with other entities, right? And so what I would offer is understand the broad spectrum of AI, and then get into a very specialized capability of what AI can do. And it's going to evolve. It's evolving. It's the fastest growing technology that is on the planet has ever seen, right? So if you're not investing your time in education in AI, as well as your children, your colleagues. I would say promote that any aspect that you can in order to be able to learn anything. I would just say do it.
Good point. Anything else?
I'm intrigued by the question because, what are your companies sort of doing that begins to talk about AI? And as I sit back and I think at IBM, by a show of hands, how many have watched or observed a recent sporting event? When I think about it from a marketing perspective, whether it's the US Open, whether it's the Masters tournament, but leveraging marketing to talk about data and information powered through AI to communicate to the world. And in international business machines, we do it in a way a lot to the commercial market, but many of those same use cases are applicable and can be leveraged in the world of defense. And so when you think about the kind of marketing things that you may have seen on television, it's a very indirect way in which we're communicating to the general population about the power of AI and data and how you can leverage those use cases to enhance decision making, be it in a military organization or decision support with respect to a sporting event. So there are a number of different things, to include open seminars in which we talk about the unique cases of artificial intelligence and how it can be used as part of commercial service commercial service offerings, or also in the case of, we think about, I think there was a question asked earlier about, some of the changes for small business. When you think about other transactional authorities today and bringing forth the emerging capabilities of not only small business, but then again, companies like the one that I'm with that take that directly to the consumer so that you can see how those things are how these tool suites are being used today in an automated way to enhance decisions.
Yeah, good point. Anything else?
I want to describe the operational environment because I think it's to put things in context. So when I used to fly reconnaissance missions, I spent a lot of time flying up and down East China Sea, South China Sea, Hainan Island, those places. So when you're in that operating area, specifically within a weapon engagement zone, one, you don't have the connectivity, so that's why we talk about persistence, having a connectivity out there. Two is speed, and speed to me there is, of course, speed and using a sensor to target and all the stuff we do in the military, but it's speed and decision making. And I can't harp with that because my whole, what I want to take you folks take away with is trust. So when we're talking artificial intelligence, the why behind artificial intelligence is about speeding up decision making. Again, within a weapon engagement zone, you're not talking minutes, you're talking milliseconds. So from an industry perspective, how do we speed up that clock cycle, if you will? So I'm going to touch on this soon, but if you look at where technology is going, software is exponentially climbing. Look at our hardware. We're still stuck in the 1970s. You got processors, memory, and a circuit board. How do you change that where latency or heat dissipation, all these things we talk about, can actually operate not in a computer or in a data center in the mainland, but in the nose cone of a missile or in a swarm of UAVs. That's the operational environment, and that's where artificial intelligence needs to go.
Yeah, yes and yes and yes. That is important. I was talking to a CEO of a software company. He says artificial intelligence has been a game changer for him as they're doing the coding of the software. Yep. and taking the human out of there, but actually doing it through artificial intelligence. Amy, I'm going to ask you a little bit of different question there. As we look at the resilience of our forward deployed bases that you are supporting and our afloat platforms, how is and where does artificial intelligence require significant compute power, which
It does.
a few of you have talked about?
Yeah, it does. And it really is hard because those forward deployed applications, whether they be bases or afloat platforms, they really are facing a paradox. The requirements, the heavy compute requirements associated to AI turns into a significant amount of power, and you're typically talking about scarce, intermittent, and vulnerable spaces when we start to talk about that. What we're seeing more and more often is that operators are bringing their power with them. And I think this is something to think about across the board with the scale of AI, whether it's CONUS or OCONUS, as we start to look at in the United States, even the studies that are happening today that MIT is putting out, by 2030, or I think it's 2035, we are going to be at 137% capacity of where we are today, meaning that we are going to start to see a huge deficit in a very short period of time, just driven by demand across the grid, along with the needs of AI. So when we start to look at these more austere environments, it becomes more and more important to look at rapidly deployable applications where we're bringing our own power. And this is something that very excited to be here today and to be part of this. Our booth is actually set up at Schneider Electric Federal. Our booth is set up to really talk to these rapidly deployable applications, whether it be deployable in tactical microgrid technologies, meaning that you're bringing in your own sustainable solution sets, whether it be through solar, wind, hydro, and then of course power, it's the utility powers or power generation. So I think there's a lot of great opportunities there for us to look at and certainly leverage the knowledge set that a group like Schneider Electric Federal or many of our partners have when it comes to this, where we're already building multi-megawatt microgrids like the best-in-class Miramar MCAT's location, and now taking this and scaling it down to an application that can be truly deployed on the edge, because I think this is very important, especially when we talk about some of the folks and how we're using this on the edge or how operators are moving on the edge or airmen. There is no MOS for a data center. There is no MOS for these type of applications. So what you need to do is really be putting in solution sets that are easy to understand, that you're capable of really pushing that knowledge and the requirements down to them where they can work on it themselves.
Yeah. You know, as we've heard today, Admiral Paparo's emphasis on artificial intelligence and importance in the resilience and bring our units. Jeff, with your many assignments and exposure out there, what would be the one piece of advice you would give to the commanders when Admiral Paparo deploys an AI tool to the field?
Well, I think there's really two things that come to mind, and we've talked on one a little bit, and we've touched on it when we're all working together. You know, so for those commanders, I would really say, well, first, you know, in the morning I wake up and I almost always scroll through LinkedIn the first thing I do. And the state of the field is, and the reason why I do that is to see what new capabilities are coming out. The state of the field is changing so rapidly, it's almost unprecedented. And so I really think that for that commander, making sure that you have that system integrator, that one person who can put it together, because these new technologies that are coming out, they don't stand in a vacuum. They're all gonna have to interact with data, they're all gonna have to interact with existing architecture. So having that trusted partner to put it all together to make it work is going to be a critical component for that commander, and to make sure that he understands how he's going to get that new capability into the TOCs, into the operations center, so he can leverage that capability to enable his mission. So when I was at AI2C, one of the things that my AI factory director would always tell our new data scientists that we'd put out into the fields is, you need to walk a mile in the shoes, and you have to be able to solve their problem. You have to know their data, their processes, their outcomes better than they do to actually provide and build that capability, that AI capability for them. That's a big ask. It's a big ask across all the boards, but it's really important, because if you don't have that mission understanding that we've talked about, then it's really going to be hard to solve that operational challenge. The second thing is, I would say, is don't underestimate the challenge of getting access to the data, the right data, both organizationally as well as the technical aspect of bringing all the data from the various sources of records together in one place that you can leverage it. And don't always assume that everybody wants to have their data available for being used. So one of the examples is we were, again, at AI2C, we were solving a problem for a commander of a basic training unit, and he wanted to, this was when the Army was having challenges with recruiting, and he really viewed himself as part of the solution to that. If he could reduce the amount of washouts that he had, and he could improve the velocity of the soldiers going through the basic training into the Army, then he could really help out. But he was only getting updates quarterly in his quarterly training briefs from his commanders on the deep dive into their how their battalions were progressing. And so he wanted to have a little bit more fidelity on that information, and so he asked us to help, and so we automated some processes. We did a lot of different things so he could have a persistent dashboard where he could actually see his data. It took us longer to actually get permission to use the data than it did to build the solution, and it was because people weren't sure who could give permission to use the data, and then not everybody, again, there was winners and losers in this, and those sub level commanders were not really thrilled that now the CG would be able to see their data at any point in time, and they wouldn't be there in the room to explain why they had certain problems and challenges in areas. And so as a commander, understand where your data is coming from, understand that everybody may not be able to, or really thrilled with giving access to that data. And you're personally going to have to be involved both organizationally, even across organizations, to get that permission so that you can use that data and you can leverage it for it. Another example at UCOM is we were working with NATO partners. There was 4 different partners that we had there, and one of the 4 on one of the plans that we were working for clearly said, no, I don't want the other 3 to see my data. And they were, to their credit, they were upfront about it. Those caveats are not always going to be in place, and so the commander is really going to have to make sure that he understands if there are the spoken or unspoken caveats to using that data, get involved early, and that's the advice that I think that I would give the commander.
Yeah, all great examples there. Ben, any other questions?
Could I
Absolutely.
add on to that a little bit? I think it becomes important when we're talking about AI tool suites that some of the guidance I think that I would offer is it's got to start with your governance model. What does the governance of your AI going to look like? That becomes the guardrails on the large language models that you set up for your operationally designed mission that ensures protection on some of that data and the information that flows through it. That you don't get falsities back through the solution that comes back from your, or through the AI solution. And so the governance model, the large language models that get put into place help you define calibrated trust. And it's the calibrated trust that when you're dealing with what Admiral Kohler said this morning in terms of speed, I think he went on to talk about persistence and operating in the engagement zone, and where you have really limited, truncated time to deal with the vast amounts of data and information, and speed is of the utmost in terms of decision support. If your AI governance models are not correct and not set up initially when you're going into a fight in this theater, or whether it's European theater, you set yourself up for, I guess, bad information to come back through for your decision makers. And then you lose trust in the system. The other thing that I would add too is, as a trained linguist who never thought that that would ever happen, as a field artillery officer, having to go to the language school in Monterey, California to learn a language, but ultimately what it was really all about was not just learning the language, but learning the culture. And you realize that whether it's European operations or Pacific operations, and you heard General Clark talk today about the number of nations that are going to be involved, the United States won't find itself as a single entity in any combat operation against a peer competitor. You will find yourself teamed very, very closely with your allies, partners, and friends. So does your AI tool suite, has it been designed and is the governance set up that takes into the account the nuances with language, the semantic reasoning that goes on with being able to come up with an AI solution? Have those things been considered, and especially when you're going to deal in a multinational environment? And those become key components, I would think, to any warfighter to have to think their way through as they're thinking about bringing AI in as a tool suite to help make decisions.
What was the language you learned?
저는 국방 외국어대 학교에 다녔습니다. 한국말을 공부했습니다. 그렇지만 다 잊어버렸습니다, which means in Korean, I went to the language school, I studied Korean, however, I've forgotten it all.
Well, obviously not, my friend. I want to follow that up, David, with both Jeff and the General's comments on that. Your lessons learned in an austere, congested environment that we talked about today, how does that impact the ability to deliver and be reliable on an AI solution?
Yeah, I mean, when first I just stepped back, right, and we talked about it, the size of Indo-PACOM in this AOR, and the distance of tyranny, and you know, there's so many commands and organizations that are distributed. Japan, Korea, Guam, Hawaii, and other islands, Philippines, right? And so every one of the organizations that sit in those small areas, they have their own needs, they have their own challenges with language, they have their own problems that they're dealing with locally or with whoever the near peer who's closest to them, right? And so when we're looking at solving problems, it has to be specific to that area, not just the whole Indo-PACOM area, right? And the thing that I would say about developing and designing AI systems that are going to support some of these areas is, I like to call it tiered autonomy, right? Effective framework where you have local AI that can operate. It can operate disconnected. It's local to the area, to the country, to the region. But then also, when it has connectivity back to the cloud, it can sync and provide updates, connect to data sets that are not potentially local, and then provide those updates, right? So when we're designing any type of AI systems, one is the local personnel, the technology wizards that are locally. They know the problems. Sit with them, spend time with them, not just a drive-by. You come out for a week and listen to them stories. So this year I spent 2 months in Japan. And when I was there, I understood their infrastructure problems. I start to learn and understand the problems that they have with Japan, with the Ministry of Defense, the language challenges, right? The translation things that are needed. And all of the things that they're trying to develop, in terms of USFJ, trying to develop for their partner nation communications plan, their operations plan. How are they going to go to fight against China locally? And so it's a little long-winded here, but the reality is you need to build local. You need to understand what current infrastructure they have, what architectures that they have. How can you build upon that? Design pipes and connectivity that are resilient, anti-fragile, that can also connect back to the larger cloud when you can, because there isn't any cloud capability that's out there now. Microsoft's doing Azure Local out there, but there's a lot going on, and when you sit down and you listen to their challenges, you understand that they have problems with funding, or they have challenges with getting things from maybe Indo-Pacom or some program office. That's what I would offer. Spend time with them. Don't just do a drive-by. Make sure that it's unhurried time and you learn and understand what their problems are. Then you can design the AI frameworks that are going to be able to support their mission, right?
Yeah.
And then you can understand which type of AI capabilities that they need, and then grow upon that.
Agreed. Ben, are there any questions?
Well, if I may add on to that.
Absolutely.
So I certainly agree. And, one of the things that with AI, it's a relatively new field. And so the requirements writers who are trying to write these requirements that, industry is going to go out and build to, that we don't have a lot of experience with people who have the background in AI and the background in writing these requirements. And so we don't always get the most well-written document, which is a problem. And so that knowledge you get from spending time with them and understanding that mission, then you can bridge that gap between the written requirement and the actual need, so you can provide that capability.
Absolutely.
That's something that I think will get better as we improve on, and these requirements documents will get better written, and we'll have better, a little bit more fidelity to industry that's out there. But just where we're at right now, I still think there's a gap between the two.
Very good point. Mel?
I want to foot stomp on that, because I think this is where we can help. Speed is not just operating within a weapon engagement zone. Speed is operating across the entire acquisition life cycle.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about speed, well, one, we're in the Paycom theater, so I'll just focus on that. In the Paycom theater, we are 421 days from the Davidson window. So if you're tracking that, then you understand the urgency. It's taking that operational urgency left of boom, meaning to the acquisition community. Because, we can do all this stuff in the weapon engagement zone, but if it's going to take us 5-10 years to get things out there, it's a non-starter. So that's one. But, the question was, how would the folks, the commanders, think about AI? When you're out in the field, they don't care what goes on in the engine. They just want two things. Does it work? And can it be fixed? And is it simple? Third, simple to operate. That's what they care about. And so our job as industry, as in government, for the folks that are in a supporting role, they're the supported. And when I mean supported, these are your E5s and O3s. That's your supported folks. Our job is to support them. So how do we make it where artificial intelligence becomes part of their decision cycle, OODA loop? So one thing when I used to fly for the Navy, one thing we learned is that you train like you fight. So if you're not training to use artificial intelligence in your decision cycle, it's going to be sitting on a shelf somewhere. So that's another piece that I think we're getting more into, is integrating artificial intelligence into exercises, into training, into Fallon and Top Gun. They're using there's all these different ways to use artificial intelligence. So I think the foot stomp here from business opportunity, we haven't seen the challenges or the problems or opportunity that's going to come out with AI, especially in that sort of environment. So I think this is where we can come in as a bridge to take that urgency from the O5s, the E5s and O3s operating the South China Sea to the contracting officers in Washington, D.C.
I'm gonna start a new company with my panel members here, and we're gonna take on requirements writing, because I could not agree more. That is absolutely true as we do that. Ben?
So this has been addressed partially, I think, earlier. However, hallucination is a known issue for AI. And as we ask our service members to make heavier use of AI, how do we teach them and provide them with tools to help reliably audit the outputs to ensure our AI agents aren't giving us inaccurate azimuths?
Amen. Amen. That's a good question. I'm not sure we've answered it, David.
Yeah, so, yeah, great question. What I would offer with AI systems right now, there's never going to be zero hallucinations with AI, because you can create retrieval augmented generation frameworks, you can create other agents to be able to do analysis on LLMs or small language models, or any type of AI. But the reality is you need to establish a baseline, a risk level or a trust level of what you're willing to accept, whether it's 95%, 97%, right? And then you tell that commander, okay, based upon this information, this feedback that I just got from my AI system is going to be about 95% accurate, okay? So humans still need to be able to make that decision, have the most accurate information available to them at the time. But yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be a problem, for the near future. Make sure that you're pointing at the right databases. All the information in those databases are accurate and correct, right? You have to set up some frameworks that it's going to make sure that it's reviewing itself, reviewing its responses, right? So there's some other things that you can do. But yeah, I don't think that we'll ever get to zero hallucinations.
I agree. Amy, what do you think?
So I actually will go back to something Mel said a little bit earlier. I think training is a huge piece of this. If you're training with the AI, if you're doing all of the things to prepare yourself for the day that you actually need it to do what it does, then you've already started to set your tempo and you've set your course to look at a piece of information that the AI is providing and have some level of have some form of determinants to know which direction you should head. So when it is hallucinating, you can say, wait, this doesn't jive with what we've done in our training exercises. This doesn't make sense to what's happened in the past.
So I certainly agree with that, and I just reminded of the fact that AI is a tool, and it's a tool to solve a specific problem. Yeah. And while it may not be a perfect tool, but it is a tool. And so one of the things that when I was talking to a friend of mine who's in the ORSA community in the Army, he would say there's a couple different types of ORSAs, and one of the types would be a model says ORSA. And I'm not picking on ORSAs in any stretch of the imagination, but there were people who they would have a model and it would provide an output, and they would say the model says this, without any review of the data, without any review of it, and did it make sense? So you still are going to have people who understand the mission. They're going to use their judgment, and remember, it's to improve the speed and quality of decisions. And so using AI to improve the speed and quality of decisions, you're still going to have the human there who's going to have to use their judgment, use their knowledge of the operations to make sure that that is a good output from whatever system, whatever AI, whatever tool that you're using.
Speaking of tool, I'm really curious, Mel. Are you gonna tell us about your tool there?
Yeah, I better for it. So this is what's called an LRU. So this is actually a real device taken off an actual vehicle that's being used in the front lines. But this is your microprocessor. This is your chip. So when you think tactical within the weapon engagement zone, you're not talking about a chip. This is what it looks like. It's pretty heavy.
Yeah.
But it's ruggedized, but once the chip is inside of here, it is permanent. So imagine launching this in space or all these other things, right? So the question that I want to bring up is when it comes to trust, is how do you know that this thing wasn't compromised? Or how do you know that this thing wasn't tampered? Or a malicious component was put in this? Again, we're talking about the tyranny of distance, right? So if you're looking at between 6,000 miles, is there an opportunity for the adversary to insert something in this in a supply chain? I think the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Is it going on today? Yes. So the question again is trust. How do you trust? Of course, you'll train with the algorithms and you'll get a feel, because at the end of the day, it's going to be two things for AI, at least what I think in a weapon engagement zone. You're either the human in the loop or the human on the loop. Obviously, you want to get to on the loop, let the AI do most of the crunching. But I think today we're still in the human in the loop, especially with weapons release. But at some point, it'll go to human on the loop or no human at all involved in the decision making, especially when you're talking weapons. So this thing, again, is a microchip. So the question is, when you're talking microchips, so TSMC with Taiwan, so over 90% of our chips are made in one place, Taiwan. I think we all know that. Now, China is catching up, and I'll just ask you folks to just Google, not digital circuits or digital chips, but analog chips, going back to the future. So, and the reason they're doing this is they're basically compressing your processor and your memory. Again, that's the latency, speed at this level, right? So not minutes, but milliseconds. So the question is, how do you check it? How do you know your GPUs? Oh, by the way, it's already sold out to 2027. TSMC has no more. They've already sold it all. GPUs. Of course, you have TPUs. If you're following all the AI accelerators, ASICs. This has an FPGA in it. If you're familiar with the FPGA, the gate arrays in here, it's programmable. So the question now is, how do you know at some point that someone's going to flick a switch and it's going to inject something in this component and it will change the programming in the chip? So that's something that if you want an example, come to my booth, I can show you.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. General, Commander, how are you going to build that trust?
I'm sorry?
How are you going to build that trust and the confidence of an AI solution?
Well, I think it goes back to some of the things I talked about earlier in terms of AI governance. I would just foot stomp if governance is not set up inside of an organization the correct way, then you're never going to be able to achieve trust. The other thing, because I'm an old soldier, I kind of go back to when, and it's on the Army side, when they went through the Big Five modernization and we brought on a variety of different systems, and we dealt with concepts like doctrine, organization, training, leader, materiel, .mil PF. I think it becomes important to make sure that even in our education systems within how we're teaching and bringing on new leaders is they have got to be inculcated in how to leverage and use artificial intelligence as a tool set inside of their organizations. If we don't do that, then we will have a gap in terms of the education of what the AI can provide, where the hallucinations might be. But most importantly, I think the trust factor, at least for me as a commander, comes down to is the AI solution helps get to the voluminous amounts of data and the cognition to be able to cut through it. At the end of the day, it's about leaders, commanders, and judgment.
Yep.
All organizations, all of the components in this theater, Indo-Pacom staff deal with rules of engagement. And at the end of the day, it's the judgment of leaders and commanders leveraging a tool that allows them to be able to make the timely decisions about the solution that is coming back through their AI source.
Right, exactly. Good point. Ben, anything else?
Yes, ma'am. At most of these conferences, military and government speakers are asked to list their needs from industry. From an industry perspective, what do you need from the Department of War to deliver your capabilities to meet the mission?
Good question. Amy?
It's a challenging question. So I think one thing that we do see quite often within industry is sometimes it's understanding, just having spent as much time within the IC and the combatant commands as I have, sometimes it's a matter of also understanding your identity. And this is a huge piece of that, I think we oftentimes will see, hey, I want to build an AI data center. You go, great, what do you need the AI data center to do? Or what's your intent behind it? And they'll like, I read I need an AI data center. And you go, okay, well, that doesn't really answer the question. So sometimes I think it is a matter of even taking that step back. And I think it was either David or Mel had mentioned earlier, understanding, being there in the front line and understanding what your need actually is. Because having a huge data center for the sake of having a huge data center doesn't always make a lot of sense. It's really understanding what your utilization's what you're using it for. And I think this is also a huge piece of why, as we watch some of the acquisition strategies start to develop and morph within the government today, where we're moving to more of a model rather than staying with the LPTA or having requirements fully drilled out, but moving more to this is my intent, and then bringing industry partners all together to team as a solution set and work through negotiated contracting rather than I'm going to go to Mattermost for this, and I'm going to go to Schneider Electric for Federal for this, and I'm going to go to IBM for this, and having us work together and really encouraging that type of an environment is so important, because I think there are a lot of times where you can provide, as the government, you can provide us a vision of what you want, and then we're the industry experts. I'm the one that's built thousands of square feet of data center, multiple megawatts of data center in contested environments, multi-domain environments. I can help you do this. You may have built 1 or 2 data centers in your entire career. I've built thousands.
Yeah.
So why not leverage industry a little bit better and maybe have a good idea of what your vision is and what your intent is, and then allow us in a little earlier to help you really develop what that should look like.
Yeah, I think that's so important. We have a panel tomorrow that is bringing an industry consortium together to solve a tough problem for the theater. It's exactly what you just described, is being able to do this with industry, build these consortiums from the experience that we each have. Mike, what time's that panel tomorrow? 2 o'clock tomorrow, and it's going to be over in the Indo-Pacific Theater. So absolutely think that is a good solution.
I'm excited to listen in on
Yeah,
that.
okay. Anything else?
I think that one of the things is probably access, open, honest, and frequent conversations with your industry partners. I mean, well in front of, by the time you drop your RFP, that is only going to get the understanding. Again, close that gap, what I talked about, from that written requirement to the actual solution, understanding your needs. And so help them walk a mile in your shoes to understand the problem, the challenges, and all of that will just be really critical for providing that better solution.
Yeah, I agree. Yep.
I'm cautiously optimistic that, again, venues and forums like this allow for that open, candid conversation about the changing nature of technology and what can be offered to the warfighter as we move forward. The senior leaders that I've had an opportunity to meet and talk with have been very frank and forward in terms of making sure that how can these emerging capabilities help us in our ability to conduct our future mission against would-be peer competitors. And you see it with the number of military units that are aggressively going forward and asking to bring in technical solutions into their formations so that they can work with it, train with it, break it if required in order for them to learn. So I think you're seeing a revolution in how our military formations and senior leaders are thinking about the emergence of technology, that being, we're talking about artificial intelligence today, but we're having that future discussion about the emergence of quantum and what quantum power means moving forward as we move well into the future. So I'm optimistic that kind of coordination is happening between industry and with military.
I can't believe our time is up. This has been fascinating. 30 seconds each. What else do you want to tell the audience? David.
I just want to talk about this last question, right? So one of the things that I think that the Department of War could help us with is faster acquisition authorities. We have hackathons and things. I don't think they're fast enough, right? We need to be able to fail fast, iterate, fail fast, iterate, keep going, build it till it's there and it meets the mission need, right? I think if we take that from a higher level policy perspective, those are the types of things that we need to be able to do, and then small businesses and industry can come in and support that, and then we don't have a hackathon that lasts 6 months.
Yeah.
Right. So those are the things I would ask the Department of War to facilitate.
Good points, Mel.
Yeah, I think the answer to kind of answer that question about Department of War, what they can do. If I was king for the day, what I would say is put a contracting officer or a contracting authority side by side with the COCOM commanders. Change the culture of acquisition. We want to shorten that acquisition kill chain as much as possible.
Yeah.
So, again, if I was king for the day, I would put a contracting authority, contracting priority officers in Guam or in Okinawa, as close to the fight as possible.
Right. Love it. Amy.
I think what's for us, it's really come and take a look at some of the things that we can offer. I think industry, and you have so many partners that are here that you can go and spend time with. We're in booth 609, rapid deployable solution sets. I think that is critical for the Indo-Pacific. And of course, I have to give out a huge shout out to my friends at J2 who came tonight to just see this panel and get the chance to listen to us talk about this.
Thank you, Jeff.
I think I'll probably end on where I was, the last comment that I made is when I was still in uniform, I didn't understand the value of those conversations with industry. Going into a place where you are trying to develop capabilities and people are trying to get access to you, one, you do have to protect your time, but two, it really is valuable for industry. So make sure that you are dedicating that time. Talk to your industry partners so you can actually have a better solution for your need, for your problem.
Absolutely. Sir.
I guess I'm shaped a little bit in answering this question through our experiences. And the global focus of whether it has been serving overseas in Europe, within NATO, 32 nations, allies, partners, and friends, being here in the Pacific region. While that sort of NATO structure doesn't exist, there are a variety of different engagements and bilateral and trilateral arrangements with our partners and friends. Is that when we think about how we're leveraging technology in ensuring that we do it in an enterprise, holistic way that allows us to be able to warfight with our friends. If we design systems that sort of have a U.S. English bias, then we potentially put ourselves at risk. And that is a tremendous warning with artificial intelligence solutions as we move forward. So that would be sort of my last parting comment.
I want to thank each of you, as I said before, being a part of the AFCEA team We're here because of you and what you bring to our men and women and those of you that have served in uniform. Thank you very much for your service. And I know I told many people 6 months after I retired, what I learned in industry, I wish I knew when I was in uniform, because I would have made different decisions. So each of you are absolutely right. Keep that partnership going, because now you're on the other side and can bring those solutions. So thank you very much.
Still serving.
Well, General Lawrence and panelists, on behalf of AFCEA International and AFCEA Hawaii, we thank you for taking time to be with us today. We talked about the trust and the governance, the judgment of leaders in this aspect of AI, reintroduced or reminded us about the Indo-PACOM AOR and how big it is and how that impacts AI. General Morgan, your Korea language lesson reminded me that all that I know is ano haseo and ano hasamika. So I need to brush up as well. As a thank you to our speakers this week, on behalf of AFCEA, we're going to make a donation to the Friends of Windward Wounded Warriors. In addition, after I finish all these remarks, I'll present a coin to each of the panelists. And again, that's a highly coveted coin which highlights the 40th TechNet Indo-Pacific, number of years that we've been doing that here. So ladies and gentlemen, again, thanks for joining today. There's still a lot of activity to go over before the conference wraps up the first day. Coming up next in this room is the J2 panel on evolving Indo-Pacific security environment. There's also some breakout sessions in various theaters on the exhibit floor and in the rooms up on the 300 level. Beginning at 4 p.m. Today, there's going to be a reception in the exhibit hall. So please take advantage of that great networking opportunity. And then just have a great rest of the afternoon and evening here in Honolulu. And we look forward to seeing you throughout the rest of the day. So thank you.
Thank you. Oh, God, can I stand up? Oh, I do.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.